Hey everyone, this is Chris with Water-logix, and today I wanted to talk to you folks about salt bridging and the importance of servicing and maintaining water softener systems. I'm going to do my best here to simplify how these water softener valves operate, so tag along with me here. When systems go in clean or regenerate, the first thing that they're going to do is that they're going to backwash and send water out of their drain line here. The second cycle is a brine draw cycle where it sucks in a certain amount of salt out of these reservoir tanks here. The third cycle is a slow rinse and rapid rinse cycle where it forces the water down your resin tank and then sends water back out of your drain line so you're not drinking salt water. And then the fourth cycle is a brine refill cycle where it fills up these salt containers a certain amount for that next week or two so they can break down. Over time, systems will not suck in a certain amount of salt, and where I'm getting at is, here's the 4 cycles here. This is the second cycle where it's sucking in the salt, and here's the 4th cycle where it refills the water in these salt containers. When this second cycle doesn't suck in a certain amount of salt, if you go back to the 4th cycle here, that water's just going to keep slowly rising. That is typically an issue with the valve mechanics, but it also creates a domino effect with everything else. That's why it's super important to make sure you're having a water quality specialist like myself come out here and check these. I typically tell my customers, let the salt get low around every year and a half or so, and then basically dump out all the salt in this and completely wipe it down. When you are on public or well water, it doesn't matter what water softener you have. All residential water softeners are going to refill the water in these brine containers with the raw water. It does not use the water going through the resin bed. So unless you have a sediment filter, these things can also clog up on you and get really nasty. So again, it's just preventative maintenance. It's not that these systems are junk. It's just you need to make sure that these systems are properly working and the salt's going down. Here is an example of salt bridging. Basically, the system was never serviced, and over time, the system wasn't sucking in a certain amount of salt, and the water kept rising in this tank and created a complete bridge of salt. And it keeps that water below the salt, so when the system goes and sucks in the salt, it's not working properly. You might notice that the salt from up here is slightly going down, but that's most likely because of the water so high in here, it's just still breaking it down. When these systems go in clean, they need a certain amount of salt to regenerate these resin beds, or they're not going to work on you and they're going to crash. What happened here is the system wasn't sucking in salt for well over 2 years, and the customer finally reached out to me to have me come out for a service call, and it's a little too late here, but when you're on public water, for example, there's also a lot of chlorine in the water, and it's going to really depreciate the resin in here. So unless you have like a carbon filter up against the wall taking the chlorine out and taking that sediment out so this doesn't get nasty, your system's going to need a lot more maintenance. It's just how it is. It's not that it's junk or anything. This little green gook you see in here is actually the resin completely depreciated. Some municipalities will use chloramines, where it's a mix of chlorine and ammonia, and the ammonia is so hard to get out of the water. Typical granular-activated carbon filters that are like mounted filters up against a wall, they're not going to take away this chloramines the way this is. You actually need a type of media called catalytic carbon in front of it to take care of that. Some people do mixed conditioner systems where it's an all-in-one system, but this resin completely crashed because this was not properly working, and then it created a domino effect into this resin tank here, and the system completely depreciated. So I'm here today completely replacing this water softener system. I hope this helps. Please give me a call if you ever need help. Phone number here is 215-350-2286. Once again, this is Chris with Water-logix. I'm a water quality specialist. Give me a call. Thanks.